And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. And if I'm not mistaken, we have also back with us the one, the only, the moderator, the motivator, but definitely not an instigator.
Hello?
T-Boz coming at you right here on another episode of the Feel Good Show. T, how are you today, sir?
Well, don't you know that I love music, and I'm never going to change my tune. Don't you know that I love my music, and I'm never going to change my tune. Sing it with me, Jock. Let's do one verse. Don't you know that I love my music? And welcome, everyone. Everyone, come on in. The doors are open. It's a beautiful second day of summer. Don't worry that we lost 2 minutes of daylight. Come in, and get ready to dance and sing. The topic or the subject today, I think you all guessed it, music. And so if you don't know what an Ionian mode is and a Mixolydian mode and polyrhythms and paradiddles and all of that, don't worry about it. We're not going to teach that. We're going to talk about music in a different way and welcome you all. And thank you, Jock, for having me on the show. And I wanted to open in a big way, and so we did. So there's all musical instruments hanging in the studio today and notations and all of that. So why music? Well, Jock did a big thing on Tuesday, played a lot of his original music, and celebrating World Music Day. So for today's show, as Ed Sullivan used to say, really big shoe, and if you know how to say that, you're over 50, there are no shout-outs. We're going to get right to the stuff. I have a plethora of things to do. So we're going to get going, and that's why we picked music. So no shout-outs today. We'll have them next time we come back. World Music Day was started in 1940 in France and originally called Fête de la Musique, and it's celebrated all throughout the entire world. Actually, sometimes it's called International Music Day on June 21st. And the purpose of it is to celebrate music and also to bring young artists, new artists, composers, to bring their craft, their talent to the forefront. And music is such a part of our life. And so when Jock did this on Tuesday, I said, I'm going to piggyback on that. We've done some very heavy topics over the last couple of weeks. And I said, you know what? Early summer, let's do this. So that's what we're doing today. So World Music Day was Tuesday. We're going to carry it on through today. Got a lot of surprises for you guys. And in honor of my, well, not my friend, but a guy I love to listen to, Dave Brubeck, he always says, take chances, improvise. So the whole show today is going to be improvised. There is no shout-outs, as I said, and guess what? No format. Okay, we're going to improvise this whole show. Yes, I have my go-to notes, but I am not going to follow an order. It's like when I used to play the piano, you sit down, I'm going to let the heart and the emotion take me. So wherever I talk about today, wherever I go, will be just like an improvisation in a jazz solo. Okay? And we're just going to lay it down. We're probably going to do it in the key of G, I guess. But and those of you who don't know all of that, that's just Jock and I kind of have a little fun with this. All right, so what are the benefits of music? Well, music can inspire us, right? It can pump us up, right? It's very effective in movies. Actually, the other day was the anniversary of Jaws. Right, so music stirs our emotion. Music is part of our life. From when we're little kids, when our parents sing us happy birthday, to our first date, sitting there in the car up at Muldoon's Point. Maybe your era was, Nat King Cole. My era was probably the Eagles and the Bee Gees. Some of you, might be three doors down or whatever the case is. But music inspires us as we're up there on Muldoon's Point, right? The prom, our weddings. My wedding song was Love Is Here to Stay by one of my favorite composers, George Gershwin. All right, so music is there for so many happy moments. It brings tears to our eyes. When Lady Boz and I, Veronica and I, go to Holy Family Retreat Center, beautiful music, we're moved to tears. But then there's also the sad tears. Those of my friends who are listening that 5, 6, 7, 9 years ago had lost spouses, they know what I'm talking about. You turn the radio on, and every song seems to be saying something about your spouse. And so you're drawn to tears. So music cannot bring sadness, but it can comfort us through our sadness and remind us of people we lost. It may also bring us celebrations when we have different things in our lives. As I mentioned, music is very appropriate. A lot of times it's always great to have a band at something big. So music is very emotional. Music is very personal. And we're going to get into a thing called personalities, the different types of personalities, the kind of music that you listen to. So music is, whether you play an instrument, whether you sing or not, music is a huge part of your life, whether you know it or not. And I think most of you listening to this show, listen to the radio, realize that music is very important. So World Music Day, the benefits of music, the impact of music on our life, so very important. I love music. My brothers and I, we got the love of music from my father. My father couldn't afford lessons in Brooklyn back in the 20s, and he used to make believe he was playing the trombone like Glenn Miller. But when we were kids, went to bed, and all of a sudden my father used to watch The Tonight Show, and he'd come up and wake us up. Come on, come downstairs. And my mother would say, Stevie, what are you doing? He goes, I want them to see Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich. Okay, so we're probably the only kids in school who could actually say Gene Krupa. And he'd wake us up when the Osmond Brothers were on, or different singers, and we'd be sitting on the edge of the bed watching the black and white TV and watching Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa, or some great singers. My father loved music. Music was always in our house, the stereo. I remember when he got his first Sony tape recorder, and he had the Fisher turntable, right, Jock? And, God, he recorded music. Music was always playing. And in my brother's houses and my sister, the radio, the CDs, the Alexas are going nonstop. So what is the definition of music? It's either vocal or instrumental or both. It's combined in such a way as to produce beauty, form through harmony and expression of emotion. So at the heart of music, it's emotion. All of music is emotional, whether it's experienced as emotion or it's written with emotion. T-Boz has a quote today, and it says, all instruments are dead pieces of wood and metal until a musician sits in front of them and breathes life into them. From his heart or her heart, through his fingers, through his arms, through his mouth, flows the beauty that starts in his soul. So musicians breathe beauty. Yes, a Steinway is a beautiful piano, but it's just a big piece of wood unless someone like Vladimir Horowitz or Liberace or Billy Joel are sitting into it and breathing life into it. So that's what music is, beauty and form combined with words, and it touches our hearts in so many ways. Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King, but Martin Luther, who started the Lutheran religion. He nailed his 24 grievances on the door of the Catholic Church, and then started a new religion called the Lutherans, obviously, and he was a Catholic priest. But he says this beautiful thing about music. Music gives a soul. Now listen to this, boys and girls. Put the pens down and listen to this. Music gives a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, and life to everything else. Boom. Music gives a soul to the universe. Think about that. Think about how massive the universe is, but music is so powerful. It gives a soul. That whole universe becomes a soul, a living being, right? A living thing. Wings to the mind. Isn't that so true? Those of you who create music, I want to welcome my friend Susan, who is a musician, and she's a new listener, first-time listener, and she loves music, and I'm sure she identifies with that phrase, wings to the mind. Okay? A lot of times you struggle as a musician. Phil Collins had a wonderful album, No Jacket Required, and it came from the divorce of his wife, and the words are so heart-wrenching, okay? When we listen to Negro spirituals and the blues, we're going to talk about that today. Wings to the mind, okay? And flight to the imagination. Now, I'm going to be throwing different songwriters out here. I'm going to take that line, flight to the imagination, and we're going to look at the late, great John Lennon, and he says, reality leaves a lot to the imagination. Boom. Imagine that, the greatest song you probably ever wrote. Imagine reality. So a songwriter is like a sponge. They're absorbing things that happen to them. And so reality, things that happened all around John Lennon, and probably most. Jock is a songwriter. I'm sure a lot of his songs come from things that happen around him. So reality leaves a lot to the imagination. And there it says, right there, Martin Luther. I mean, Martin Luther and John Lennon couldn't have been further apart in terms of age, but their thought process, because they love music, is the same. Flight to the imagination. How are we doing on time? Okay, we're good. All right. Every week I talk about Psalms, right? And we say Psalm, Psalm, Psalm. People say, what is a Psalm? Psalm, the definition of a Psalm. In the Old Testament, these are sacred songs or sacred poems that are meant to be sung. So in a lot of the Christian churches, they have responsorial psalms. Psalm really means song, Song of David. Some people believe that King David in the Old Testament wrote most of the Psalms. So Psalms, when you hear me say Psalm this or Psalm that, I think I have one coming up, Psalm 195. These are songs that people used to sing in order to worship. Leonard Bernstein says this, the great conductor says, why do so many of us try to explain the beauty of music, thereby depriving it of its mystery? Wow. So the Psalms were people using songs to worship God, and there's a mystery there, right? Why does music touch our emotions? Why are we drawn to it? Why does it do it? Because there's a mystery there. You know what's amazing is that there are 8 notes on the piano, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and an A. You have a very low A, boom. You have medium A, odd. You have very high A, but it's only 8 notes. But the different combinations of those tones and the different rhythms, whether it's an 8th note, a quarter note, a half note, 16th note, and the different combinations of all of that can create something like a Mozart symphony, or it can create something as simple as a 1-4-5 progression. Come on over, baby, whole lot of shaking going on, right? I mean, that Jock knows what I mean by 1-4-5 progression. We're not going to get technical, but that's what Bernstein is saying, the mystery. How can those simple 8 notes and a bunch of different time signatures create a Mozart symphony, or come on over, baby, whole lot of shaking going on, just something so basic like that. That's the mystery that Bernstein is talking about. Let's get into Psalm 195, verse 1 and 2. Let us sing for joy to the Lord. Let us shout aloud. So let's come before him with music and song. Now, we always talk about prayer, which is so important, right? But look what it's saying in Psalm 195. Let's come before him with music, the exact word, music and song. So that's how important music is to us as we develop, as us as we live, as us as we go through trial and error. We come to him in music and song. Back to what Bernstein says, the mystery of music. I think we have time. Okay, one more and then we're going to go to the break. So Stevie Wonder says it like this: you will never be proud of your work if you find no joy in it. Your best work is joyful work. Music at its essence is what gives us memories, the longer a song exists, the more memories we have. We've been talking about that, right? You can hear Streisand, right? But Stevie Wonder is saying exactly what we read in 195. Come to him in joy. Stevie says your best work is in joy. So praising God in joy, creating in joy is the most important thing. You'll never be proud of anything unless you create it with joy. Jock, let's hit the half-hour sponsors, and let's keep musicking along here.
As you wish. We'd like to take this opportunity to recognize and thank our sponsors for the quality community programming that you're able to listen to at this particular time. We want to give a big, huge shout-out to the Nutmeg Conservatory for the Arts, Torrington Savings Bank, TDI, Torrington Distributors Incorporated, and Charlotte Hungerford Hospital. Thank you, as always, for helping WAPJ keep the unity in the community. And we will turn the show back to T-Boz.
You know what I love is when I do my research, and I love when I find something like, say, in Psalms 195 that was probably written 10,000 years ago, and then a contemporary like Stevie Wonder, and they both agree on the same thing. Boom. That's how you know there's a God. Mozart says this: music is not in the notes, but it's in the silence in between the notes. Wow. What is Mozart talking about? He's talking about the emotion. You hear da-da-da-da, and it's in between the notes. That's really where you find the music, because that's the time when that essence can fill you and create in you a desire, like we said before, either joy or sadness or comfort or a great memory or a first date or the day you maybe hit a home run or something. Okay, you just like old cars. You go to an old car show, you see a car, you say, yeah, I was in high school in that one. My father picked me up in that one and had a car like that. I cracked up. Well, music is the same way. Music categorizes our life. You hear a song, you go, yep, I was doing this. That's what Bernstein was talking about. We talked about the mystery of it all. And this is what Mozart says, in between the notes. Music has many, I have to move, folks, we got a lot to do here. Music has many uses. And initially, music was used to teach, right? How many of you know Julie Andrews? Do, a dear, a female dear, ray, a drop of falling sun, right? It was a way for her to teach them. That's a true story. Well, in the early church, Latin was the language. And I'm going to actually sing right now for you a Gregorian chant. And this is the way with music they would teach people Latin of the day. Now, what Martin Luther wanted, I'm going to digress for a minute, he wanted the Mass to be in the language that the people lived, if you were Polish, Polish, if you were Italian, Italian. But before he was able to move away from the Catholic Church, Latin was the universal language. And this is the kind of thing they would do. Tantum egro sacramentum venerimer cernui et antiquum documentum novosi darritui prese fides supplementum sensum defectui genitori genitorque lasset jubilatio salis ana virtus quoque sire benedictio procedendi abundroque amparsit laudatio. That's a Gregorian chant. That's Latin. And I actually went to Catholic school at the tail end of when they were teaching those songs. So music was used to teach people languages. Music is also used in music therapy. Many psychologists today use music for anxiety, depression, pain management, mental health issues. And what they do is they engage people into writing songs, believe it or not, even if you're not a professional musician, writing songs, singing songs, creating some sounds on instruments, even though it may not be perfect. It brings out, as they said, the soul to the universe, as Martin Luther said. So music therapy is very important and very effective today in helping people. So not only is music something that we can dance to and love to, but music can also help us with so many other things that may be going on in our life. Jonathan Edwards says this: the best and most beautiful way of expressing sweet concord to each other is through music. So we talk a lot about this show, how we can all get along. What he means by sweet concord is the best way is through music, singing together, and then end up loving together. How wonderful when we go to a ball game and we all sing the Star Spangled Banner. Isn't that beautiful? All our voice. It doesn't matter if you're an alto, soprano, tenor, or you're flat. You're singing the song together. Sweet concord. Research. We're going to get into some research now of different personalities and music. Okay, so the Heriot-Weill University, they surveyed 36,000 participants all over the world, and they had them rate 104 different styles of music. And the researcher's name was Adrian North. And what Adrian North and his team came up with is this: people who listen to pop music, so what you listen to can identify you. People who listen to pop music, top 40, tend to be hardworking, high self-image, and very motivated. People who listen to rap, hip-hop, now everyone's going to say, I know the answer to this. Guess what, boys and girls? You're wrong. People who listen to rap and hip-hop are very outgoing. They are equally hardworking, and they do not fit into a typical stereotype. Okay? Let's keep moving along here because these are fun. Creative, people who listen to indies music, they are a little bit introverted. They are very creative. They are intellectual. And they may be a little bit less hardworking, but they do suffer a little bit from low self-esteem. Now, you can agree or not agree with this. This is the research that I did. This is what I found. People who listen to dance music like Lady Boz and I, so true, outgoing, assertive, ranked very high in the trait of openness to new experiences. Wow. Because both Lady Boz and I came from widowship, we had to learn a lot of new things, So that's very true. People who listen to classical music, they're a little bit introverted, they're at ease with themselves, but they are creative and they have very good self-esteem. And ironically, people who listen to classical music usually earn more money. So there you go. Start listening to Bach. Remember Radar in MASH? Bach. Country music people listen to that tend to be conservative, tend to be hardworking. However, they rank lower in openness to new experiences. Very interesting there. People listen to heavy rock, heavy metal. They're very creative, and they may suffer a little bit from low self-esteem, but they tend to be hardworking as well. And I think we just have a couple of quick ones here. Jazz. Now, Jock talked about jazz yesterday. This I love because Lady Boz and I love jazz. Jazz. If you're listening to jazz, blues, and soul, you find out to be creative, intelligent, high self-esteem, very extroverted, and at ease with themselves. So jazz music, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And the other thing, too, that's interesting about jazz music, there's a lot of accents on the upbeat. Da-da-ba, da-da-ba, da-da-ba. And that has a lot to do with how you feel. So jazz music, people listen to jazz music, you got a lot going on. Let's look at our buddy Dave Brubeck. Jazz is about freedom. Freedom within discipline. Jazz is about freedom within discipline. It's supposed to be improvised, okay? So let the classical musicians do perfection and let the jazz musicians freely play. And take risks. That's why I'm doing the show Improvise, as you can tell. So what Dave Brubeck says is jazz music is supposed to take risk and improvise. Well, isn't that what we talk a lot about on this show, boys and girls, about taking risk and doing new things and trying different things, okay? And so what we learn in music, we can also learn in life as well. Music in the Bible, very important for us because music is used a lot there. Martin Luther says again, music is the prayer. Okay? Music is the prayer that the heart sings. Where words fail, music speaks. So you can lift your prayer life through song, and we're going to do a little something of that in a minute. Ephesians 5, verse 19, sing hymns, psalms, and songs among yourselves, spiritual songs, okay, to praise the Lord. Now we're going to try a little something. I'm going to do one little last song here for you as we keep moving along. And then I want everyone to sing along with me. Ready? So what they're saying is singing your prayer. Sing a new song unto the Lord, singing hallelujah, hallelujah. Everybody join with me now. Go ahead. Sing a new song unto the Lord, singing hallelujah. Doesn't that just lift you and make you feel better? So what it says in Ephesians is lift your heart with song to the Lord in prayer. Barry Manilow has a wonderful saying. He says, no one person or material thing could ever come close to the way I feel when the music is right. And that's so true in our spiritual life, too. As we're singing these prayers, nothing comes close. Material things, all that doesn't matter. When the music is right, when the feeling in our heart is right. Let's see how we're doing on time. Okay, we're good. All right. We looked at, again, we're going through music in the Bible very quickly. In Acts, chapter 16, verse 25 to 26, talks about Paul and Silas, and they're in prison, and they're in chains, but they sing joyful songs like we just did, and suddenly an earthquake erupts, and the chains are broken, and the doors are open, and they're freed. So the power of music, lifting our hearts to God. So music was very important in the Bible, in both the Old Testament and the New Testament. Oh, I guess something's talking. It might be my iPad. Okay, we're improvising. In 1 Samuel 16:23, and when Saul was filled with evil, and he was about to take over David, who was not king yet, but then David played his harp, his lyre, and he sang songs, and then Saul was calmed, and then didn't end up killing David. Okay, so music in the Bible is very important because there's a lot of times when songs were used. There's the Song of Mary and the Magnificat. A lot of times when songs were used to either help people, as it did with Paul and Silas, or to even help David, the future King David, so that the present King Saul didn't kill him. African Americans' contributions in music. Tremendous contributions in music, not only in jazz, my friend, but what we listen to today is rock and roll, country, bluegrass. It all started, unfortunately, in slavery. Okay, so out of that awful experience, our African-American brothers created the only American art form. In other words, Mozart and Haydn and all those guys, Chopin, that was European music. The only American music we have is, jazz, which started with blues, okay, and then grew into ragtime and then evolved. Everything evolves. I mean, I could do a whole show on this. And then with that kind of blended into what you have rockabilly, and then you get in the country and rockabilly blend, and you end up with, guess what? Rock and roll. So all the music that you hear, I don't care if it's a Jimi Hendrix guitar solo or it's Alan Jackson, okay, or bluegrass. We have to thank our African brothers and sisters. They brought this to us. And the other thing, too, is when you listen to a jazz artist, they have solos. So you have the head of the tune, right, which is, say, somewhere over the rainbow, and then each musician takes their solo. And you see the same thing when you go to rock concerts, right? The lead singer sings and the guitar player, and we got Mike on drums, bum, 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 then the other guy on sax. Well, what that stems from is when the African Americans were slaves, when they were able to get around and sing, they would sing the song, and then each person would stand up, almost like scat singing. We can't get into that right now. Ella Fitzgerald was a great scat singer. Did that. They would take words, no words, and syllables and sounds and sound like an instrument. But each slave would then stand up, and they would improvise on the theme that they were all singing. Then that person would sit down, and another person would stand up, and they would take the melody they were singing and improvise on it. And so what we see today as the solos in jazz music, what we see in rock music when each of the musicians take the turn, that all goes back to our African American brothers who created that. African Americans are responsible for the banjo. They're responsible for the fiddler. They used to play the fiddle for the white folks. Well, the fiddle that you hear in bluegrass and country music stems from that. So white people, I got to say, took their music and created what we have today. You have no idea the music, gospel music. I mean, you could say, okay, gospel music, Negro spirituals, but even in your Van Halen rock and roll, the basis of that is the blues. And out of the blues evolved, like I said, jazz and then ragtime, and then it just kept going, rockabilly and all of that. We have people like George Gershwin, a Jewish composer from Brooklyn, went all the way into the South and lived with the poor African Americans back in the 1920s so he could write his classic Porgy and Bess. Of all the plays he wrote, Porgy and Bess is the best known play from a book that he wrote, that was written, and then he wrote the music for that. But he wanted to feel the pain that these people had gone through. Unfortunately, this music that we have came out of pain. John Coltrane, a great jazz saxophonist, says, I think music being an expression of the human heart or of the human being itself. It expresses what is happening at the particular time. Boom. So what Coltrane is talking about is what was happening back in the times of slavery. That sadness, that wanting to be free, came out in their music, which then evolved into what we have today. Lionel Richie says this: soul is a feeling, not a color. Soul is a feeling, not a color. So when people say, oh, black people do soul, no. That soul came from hardship, from struggle. And they created a music that ended up affecting all of our music today. Every American song, I don't care if you think of Rogers and, what do you call it, Liberace or Richard Rogers, that all is based in our African-American brethren. Lionel Richie also said this: so much of my career has been saying things about people in melodies, not melodies that I could sing, but that melodies that people could sing. It isn't that so true? If we can sing songs, it makes us feel good. So Lionel Richie, and a lot of you know a lot of his music, wrote some tremendous songs that we use today. We look over at our Native Americans and the Aztecs and the Incas. They use music to tell their histories, their stories, their traditions. The Aztecs even had pictures carved on their guitars and drums of things that happened in the past. So again, as we did with the Gregorian chant, they could teach people. So they were very musically inclined, and actually the Pueblos started to use European music to create their music. They were forced into mission schools back then, but they became very good musicians, and there were more Pueblo Indian church musicians than even they needed, because they were so good at learning string instruments and things like that, that they took to it, and churches had many, many musicians that were Pueblo Indians in these Christian churches. So they were able to homogenize different styles of music and create music. Sir Paul McCartney says, of all the things he loves to do, he loves to sit with a guitar or piano and make the music happen. Irving Berlin, who wrote God Bless America, says, the song is a hit, but it's the melody, of course, that makes it last. And isn't that true? When you sing a song and the melody and the things that you enjoy about it, that makes it last. The interesting thing about Irving Berlin, he could only play on the black keys, and he had a lever on the piano. He had 3 pianos, and he had a lever on each piano, so that would transpose and put it in another key that the singer could use. We talk about overcoming. Here's Irving Berlin, right? A great, great songwriter. He could only play on the black keys, but he overcame that. So musicians overcome things as well. Mozart says this: a man of ordinary talent will remain ordinary even if he travels to other places. But a man of superior talent will go to pieces if he remains in the same place. Stevie Wonder says, ability may get you to the top, but character keeps you there. So both Stevie Wonder and Mozart, again, mirror images. So a lot of musicians have a lot of ability, but a lot of times, as Jacques knows, to be a famous musician, you need to get out of your comfort zone and go maybe to California, go to New York, take a risk, as Dave Brubeck says, and become a superior musician. So musicians take risks to have the careers that they have. You're not going to get it. Look where Dolly Parton came from, right? The Blue Ridge Mountains. Very quickly, we're going to end two more things. The 60s, the 1960s folk music. Richard Rodgers had a saying, and I think it really parallels the 60s folk music. People like Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, Arlo Guthrie, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Richard Rodgers says, a song is a lot of things, but first, it is a voice of the time. Boom. And was that music back then, For Dead in Ohio, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, was that music a music of the time? That generation, they felt, as we're learning today about emotion and love and reality, as Lennon said, right? And Berlin says the melody makes it linger on. Wasn't that an era where music greatly impacted the civil rights movement and teenagers across the country to move them to action? I hate to say this, but I don't know if today we have that same push with young people. I may be wrong in that, but something that Richard Rodgers said really reflects the music movement of the 1960s. I'm going to squeeze this story in. I'm going to go back to Tantamegro Sacramentum and the power of music, and then I'm going to do the quote, and we're going to be done. When my late wife died, she loved yellow roses. And so I took a yellow rose all the way to Maine, because she wanted to go back to Maine, and laid it in a crib, in a nativity crib at Christmas. When I went up there, I sat, and I talked about this once before, I sat in the church and prayed. I was in the church for 2 hours. There was no sound, but just me crying and praying. When I walked out of the church in Maine, they had a bell tower. I walked out of the church with my cane, because I'm blind, and I stood and I looked at the bay where the church was on the ocean. And suddenly, out of the bell tower was dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. And it goes on. That, my friends, is the power of music. And I'm going to tell you one more story, because, like Jock said, it's your show. Lady Boz bought me a beautiful Western shirt for square dancing. She taught me square dancing. She took me anywhere there was Wi-Fi. I didn't have that in the house. With her laptop to teach me in places like McDonald's and Big Y to learn the square dance, because I love music, I love dancing, obviously. And so she sacrificed her time and energy to teach me. She bought me a beautiful Western shirt with beautiful embraced gold embroidery and black with beautiful piping, fits like a glove. She got it for me for Valentine's Day. So I put the shirt on with the bolo tie, the Western tie that goes down the middle, the black pants, the nice shoes. And all of a sudden, I hear on the radio the song Don't Stop Believin' by Journey. Okay, and we've talked about that on this show. That was the song when I got engaged. So it has a lot of meaning. I was in a band, and we played that song right after I got engaged. So Veronica goes upstairs to get ready, and that song is on the radio, and I say, God, I said, Lori, what are you trying to tell me? Why that song right now? I'm going square dancing. Well, Veronica and I went to Mass, 5 o'clock Mass, before the square dance. And again, I'm sitting in the church, I'm looking up at the altar, I'm saying, what are you trying to tell me with that song? Now, this is the first time Veronica's hearing the story. I said, why that song right when I put on this Western outfit? And I swear to you, my friends, that I heard her voice say, she loves you, hon. And you look handsome in that shirt. That, my friend, is wings for the mind, soul for the universe. As Lennon says, imagination. That's the power. That's the beauty and the mystery of music. The final quote is by my buddy Dave Brubeck. It's short, and I think it fits the whole show. I do not want to be taught by anyone. I want to swing on my own. Boys and girls, swing. I don't care if you can't sing, then go buy someone a Western shirt. That's music. I don't care if you can't play a piano, but swing on your own. Swing. Do what you love. Create music. Make your own kind of music. Sing your own special song. It may not be in the traditional way we're talking about today, but it could be in the beauty of your life and what you give the people you love. Da 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 da. I'm not going to be taught. I want to swing on my own. Jock, let's get a quick bow because we got a great song lined up.
We sure do. And T-Boz, thank you so much for following up on International Make Music Day with your topic today on words of wisdom and moments of meditation. And I do believe that music is definitely the healing force of the universe. And I do agree with you that I think because of the changes in the industry in terms of how they've replatformed music, from albums to cassettes to, CDs to downloads, that younger people don't have the same type of excitement that we used to have when we used to go out and purchase that first album or go to Kmart or Goldenrod music store and purchase that first 45 record with the money that you got from the grass cutting job that you did for your neighbor. But, all those sentiments that surrounded, that aspect of our love for music, generationally, you know what I'm trying to say, generationally, I think plays a role in hopefully how we can, through these music initiatives, enhance that effort to up-and-coming generations so they can kind of identify with those aspects of the music that we so very much cherish culturally. But I appreciate your words of wisdom, T-Boz. Thank you so much, as always. And we're going to have to get this next selection on so people can hear it as we prepare for the top of the hour and our next show, Norm Patterson and Genesis. So thank you very much, T-Boz, and we'll see you next week, brother.
Okay.
In the meantime...
Be yourself. Everyone else is taken. Swing. Bye.